Yeah, the car sequence was interesting because we worked on it a long time, 2 weeks or something like that. And it all cut back and forth between the elevated train up above and what was going on down below on the street. And I tore up a couple of cars. They had the street closed off. They had, police all over the place, closing all the streets coming in, and for about 4 or 5 blocks, so we could really get a run. And we were going, I don't know, 70, 75 mile an hour probably, maybe more.
After his passing, which sent shockwaves through Hollywood, Gene Hackman's old car was found in his Santa Fe garage. Inside, investigators discovered eerie artifacts, stained notebooks, audio tapes, and photos of secrets collected over years. So what secrets did Hackman's car hold? And how did these clues lead the FBI to uncover the cause of his death? So stay tuned for today's video to explore the answer. The dust-coated Toyota Celica rested motionless in Gene Hackman's Santa Fe garage, as silent as an old witness waiting for its tale to be uncovered. Beneath the unforgiving glare of the Highland sun, the car had lost its shine, yet the layers of grime couldn't obscure the essence of speed embedded in its every metal curve. Discovered after Gene Hackman's passing, it emerged during a family effort to sort through his possessions. The garage door groaned open, untouched for years, revealing not just a car but a shrine to memories of a man who once mastered the perilous twists of the 24 Hours of Daytona in 1983. This Celica was far more than a vehicle. It was an unspoken romance between Hackman and the thrill of racing, a passion he kept hidden from the public eye. On the windshield, a 1983 Daytona participant decal still clung stubbornly, its edges frayed but its bold crimson letters standing firm. That small sticker held the essence of Hackman's spirit on the racetrack that year. Inside, the car's cockpit remained eerily frozen in time, as though Hackman had merely stepped out for a brief respite and might return at any moment. A pair of worn leather racing gloves lay on the passenger seat, their fingers creased, and the tips faintly marked with motor oil. Nearby, a racing certificate bearing the name Gene Hackman and the title official participant, 24 Hours of Daytona, sat quietly, its ink blurred by age but still unmistakable in the strong, determined strokes of his signature. Tucked beside the gear stick, flipped over as if forgotten, was a small photographed Gene Hackman in a white racing suit, standing with the Toyota racing team. His crooked smile was smeared with dust and sunburn, a smile that didn't belong to an A-list Hollywood icon but to a racer, eager to tear down the track, indifferent to fame or fortune. Die-hard fans of Gene Hackman might rattle off his filmography, his accolades, and his sharp-witted interviews without hesitation. Yet, the chapter of his life entwined with speed, his secret love for racing, remained a mystery even to his most devoted admirers. The reasons behind Hackman's passion for the racetrack were unclear. Some speculated it was his escape from the artificiality of Hollywood, the smoke-filled gatherings, and hollow pleasantries. Others believed the thrill of Daytona's sharp turns was where Hackman felt most alive, not as a celebrity, but as a man stripped to his core, confronting speed and fear. In his later years in Santa Fe, Hackman rarely spoke of that hidden chapter. His Celica sat dormant in the garage, its engine silent. But whenever he entered that space and leaned against the car's cold frame, his eyes would glimmer with a peculiar light, as though those races still roared on in his memory. When Hackman passed away, the revelation of his racing passion sent shockwaves through the media. Headlines like Gene Hackman, Hollywood's hidden racer, splashed across front pages, reshaping the public's perception of the legendary actor. Yet while the world buzzed with intrigue, the Celica remained still a steadfast guardian of untold stories. It held the echoes of unfinished races, unclaimed turns, and the engine's growl that only Hackman could hear in the quiet of Santa Fe's nights. For Gene Hackman, acting may have defined his career, but the racetrack defined his soul. When the driver's side door swung open, a faint beam of light from outside illuminated the aged leather surface of the glove compartment near the door panel. At that moment, the Santa Fe police weren't expecting to uncover mundane personal belongings like leather gloves or the Ray-Ban sunglasses Hackman often sported. Instead, they stumbled upon a slim folder with slightly creased corners and pages, yellowed from frequent handling. Scrawled in handwriting across the cover was a simple title, Pacemaker Log. At over 90 years old, Gene Hackman was well acquainted with routine medical examinations. However, what astonished both investigators and medical professionals alike was the extraordinary precision with which Hackman documented every detail of the small, life-sustaining device implanted in his chest. These weren't official doctor's notes or hospital records. Hackman himself, had meticulously chronicled the operational history of his pacemaker, recording data daily, even hourly. After each medical visit, his entries were unfailingly consistent, penned with a fountain pen in a slightly left-leaning script. It wasn't the free-flowing handwriting of an artist, but rather the careful strokes of someone obsessively vigilant. Each page began with a date, followed by numerical data, heart rate graphs, electrical pulse frequencies, and Hackman's own observations about his health. In early February, Hackman made a brief but chilling note. Slight, irregular pulse detected. Review with private physician immediately. The words carried no trace of alarm, only a detached and clinical tone. Yet they exuded a profound and unsettling sense of foreboding. Gene Hackman was not one to easily give in to worry or health-related fears. He had driven a car into a ditch during the filming of The French Connection, flown light aircraft through turbulent weather, and walked away from a motorcycle accident in California. However, the entries in his medical journal revealed a very different side, a cautious and skeptical. Hackman, who harbored doubts about the device implanted in his chest. For years, he meticulously tracked his heart rate each morning, noting even the slightest tremors or irregular beats. He carefully documented every report from his doctor, occasionally supplementing them with notes from his private physician who, over time, became unreachable. In a journal entry from December of the previous year, Hackman wrote, "No anomalies detected, but patient remains unconvinced." That phrase, "patient remains unconvinced," stood out as a quiet declaration of his lingering anxiety about the pacemaker, an essential device that, paradoxically, never provided him with a true sense of safety. When these records were leaked to the American media, a wave of speculation followed. Had Hackman uncovered a flaw in the device's design or performance? Did he suspect malpractice by his doctors or the pacemaker's manufacturer? Reports suggested that Hackman had become part of an exclusive circle of prominent cardiac patients who exchanged insights about peculiar technical issues in early pacemaker models. While no conclusive evidence existed to make accusations or draw definitive conclusions, Hackman's fixation on every heartbeat, every digit displayed on the monitor, transformed the tale of his pacemaker into an unresolved medical enigma. To Hackman, it was no longer merely a medical device. It became akin to a miniature Pandora's box embedded deep within his chest, poised to open at any moment and snatch away the delicate promise of a serene old age. And in the end, as the car door closed, the slim folder remained tucked in the side, pocket a silent testament that even icons harbor fears they rarely voice aloud. Another curious aspect of the investigation was the presence of dog hair found throughout Hackman's car. It covered the leather seats and the floor mats, and even clung to the narrow crevices between the dashboard and the gear stick. The hairs were unmistakable long, light strands belonging to Max, the aging dog Gene and Betsy had lovingly cared for over the years. For nearly 16 years, Max had been an inseparable part of the couple's lives. Santa Fe locals often saw Gene Hackman, his silver hair ruffled under the Highland sun, walking along the trail behind their home with Max's leash in hand. Max had a habit of running ahead, occasionally glancing back as if to ensure Gene was still close behind. But on February 26th, when police discovered Gene and Betsy in their eerily quiet home, Max was found lying motionless on an old towel in the bathroom. There were no barks, no signs of struggle. What stood out as peculiar was that Max rarely rode in the car. Throughout his life, he only got in when Gene Hackman lifted him onto the back seat, typically for camping trips, which they hadn't taken in years. Not only that, Max's fur was discovered scattered throughout the car, along with something even more peculiar, desert dust. While the Santa Fe area is famous for its red dust storms, the dust inside Hackman's car wasn't the same as the particles typically found near his home. Forensic testing later revealed it to be sediment dust, characteristic of the southwest desert terrain around Santa Fe. This type of dust is common along narrow, secluded dirt roads, known only to locals' paths far removed from the Hackman's usual routes. The finding raised a perplexing question. Who had taken the car beyond the neighborhood into unfamiliar territory, only to return without a word? The most straightforward explanation was that Gene or Betsy had driven somewhere prior to February 17th, the date when Gene Hackman's pacemaker last recorded an irregular signal. But if that were the case, why was there no evidence of such a trip? No neighbors reported seeing them leave, and no stores, gas stations, or traffic cameras captured the car on any main roads. The second hypothesis, more unsettling but aligning with the mystery, suggested that an unknown individual had taken the car. This person might have driven it along the dusty back roads, bringing Max, Gene Hackman's dog, along for the ride before returning the car, giving it only a superficial cleaning. and vanishing without a trace. This eerie possibility only deepened the intrigue surrounding the case. Following the Santa Fe Sheriff's press briefing, in a cramped and bustling press room, a close-up image of the dusty floor mat was displayed on a large screen. Dog fur, desert grit, a halted playlist, scattered pieces of a broader enigma. No mention was made of a final journey. Where had Hackman gone? Whom had he encountered? And what had he done in his last days? All these questions remained shrouded beneath that desert dust. Only Max Gene Hackman's loyal dog, if he could somehow reveal it, might hold the truth about what truly transpired on Santa Fe's quiet roads. On the other hand, investigators made another particularly remarkable discovery in Gene Hackman's car, which was a CD player. But before we continue, please support us by subscribing to our channel, All Profiles. Thanks a bunch. The car was spotted parked near the trailhead that led to the path encircling the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. This was the same route that Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, had walked every morning for close to 3 decades. Santa Fe was free of bustling highways and blaring car horns. Instead, the early morning sun painted a soft golden hue across the mountainside, while cacti stood motionless like ancient stone sculptures, and the wind whispered gently through the old pine trees. Inside the car, the CD player remained on. However, rather than continuing to play its familiar soothing melody, the small screen displayed a stark message. Track 9 paused. It was later revealed that track 9 was Claire de Lune, the very piece Betsy had performed during her debut concert as a professional pianist. On that memorable evening, Hackman had sat in the front row of a modest California theater, surrounded by an elegant audience, as he watched the love of his life place her hands on the piano keys. In a rare interview, he once reflected, "That night, the music was all I could hear. Everything else faded into the background." Why the playlist had stopped midway remained a mystery. The CD was flawless, and the sound system worked perfectly. Yet the word paused seemed to linger like an unseen blade, severing the emotional flow and leaving an unsettling silence, as though Hackman, or perhaps someone else, had deliberately interrupted the music before it could reach its conclusion. The Santa Fe New Mexican, the local newspaper that reported Hackman's obituary, briefly mentioned this detail. However, its significance became clear only when other elements of his story were pieced together. A Gene Hackman with a love for speed, a Hackman who diligently tracked every heartbeat, and a Hackman, a devoted husband who drove his wife to see the mountains every morning for 30 years, just to hear the melodies that had once united them. The playlist wasn't merely a collection of songs. It was a treasure trove of Hackman's memories, the moments when Betsy stood under the stage lights, the quiet afternoons they spent by the window watching the sunset, and the spontaneous drives along New Mexico's dusty roads. Betsy had halted her career to stay by his side, but her music endured. It remained alive, intertwined with the classical melodies in the playlist Hackman had cherished for decades. Although Santa Fe police later confiscated the CD system for examination, they found no evidence of tampering or malfunction. Maybe Gene Hackman, in a quiet morning moment, had instinctively paused Claire de Lune at its most exquisite passage, the shift from the deep G note to the ethereal chord progression, reminiscent of morning mist. It halted, not due to a flaw in the music, but because he needed it to linger there, suspended in that instant. A moment before everything shifted, a moment before silence took over. The music remained incomplete, just as his life had not fully concluded. The tale of the car, the unfinished melody, and the man who embraced every second of his existence intertwined, forming another kind of silent symphony. A symphony unheard yet deeply felt. Hackman's playlist now rests with the Santa Fe police, a poignant relic of sunlit mornings, classical harmonies, and a love that endured nearly 3 decades, paused at its most perfect moment. Gene Hackman's personal car, though modest in appearance, was a treasure trove of irreplaceable mementos from his career and life. Behind the wheel, Hackman wasn't merely a Hollywood icon. He embodied the essence of heart-stopping chases, where every sharp turn risked not only the character's survival, but also Hackman's own reputation in a fiercely competitive industry. The glove compartment, typically home to mundane items like insurance documents or forgotten sunglasses, held something far more remarkable. When Santa Fe police examined the car following Hackman's passing, they stumbled upon one of the most invaluable relics in American cinema history, the original script of The French Connection 1971. This film not only earned Hackman an Academy Award, but also cemented his legacy as one of the greatest actors of all time. What made this artifact truly extraordinary wasn't just its authenticity. Scattered throughout the weathered pages were Hackman's handwritten annotations, offering a glimpse into his creative process. These scribbled notes, penned in hurried blue ink, revealed his candid thoughts on scenes that others might have deemed flawless. In one instance he wrote, "Too tight at third corner. Loosen grip, but keep full throttle." A seemingly minor remark, yet it encapsulated Hackman's entire approach to acting, immersing himself fully in the moment, transforming the character into a living, breathing extension of himself, rather than just a scripted role. Below the script, serving as a protective shield for the layered memories, lay a handwritten note from director William Friedkin. Friedkin had staked his entire career on casting Gene Hackman as Jimmy Popeye Doyle, despite widespread skepticism from critics at the time. The note was faded, the handwriting bold yet tinged with a subtle sense of regret, as if Friedkin understood that after that film, he'd never encounter another fearless driver like Hackman. To Gene, the gutsiest driver in Hollywood, who never knew fear and made every engine roar like it belonged to him. Without excessive embellishment, those words encapsulated the essence of Gene Hackman, an actor unafraid to get his hands dirty, unafraid to push boundaries, and who never relied on a stunt double to shield himself. In a rare 1993 interview, Hackman referenced the letter but merely smiled when asked why he had held onto it for so many years. He replied, "Because it's not about acting. It's about the journey, the grit, the smell of burning rubber. That's the real prize." While critics may forever evaluate Hackman through the lens of awards and recognition, the weathered scraps of paper in his glove compartment revealed a different side of him, a Gene Hackman few truly knew. He was a man who approached every car chase scene as if it were a life or death battle, not to secure fame, but to prove that the spirit of a racer still coursed through the veins of a Hollywood icon. When these keepsakes were uncovered, the American media erupted with wistful tributes to the golden era of genuine chase sequences, an age where Gene Hackman was the beating heart. Yet, despite the media frenzy, the letter and script stayed tucked away in the glove compartment, as though Hackman had never really left. It was as if he was simply waiting for the right moment to slide back into the driver's seat, ready to let the untold stories of speed and grit continue. For Gene Hackman, when cinema was just an art form, it was the racetrack and the roaring turns where he truly felt at home. Finally, among the personal belongings in the trunk, several old screwdrivers, a worn-out first aid kit, and a rumpled wool blanket, investigators uncovered a small notebook. It wasn't a fancy hardcover or secured with an intricate lock. Instead, it was a simple leather-bound notebook, its edges frayed and pages yellowed, as though it had accompanied Hackman through countless sunlit days in Santa Fe. Family members revealed that in his later years, as his health began to deteriorate, Hackman developed a habit of keeping an irregular diary. This notebook wasn't used for professional purposes or scripts, but served as a personal journal, capturing his private thoughts, musings on life after leaving Hollywood, and reflections on choosing Santa Fe as his sanctuary. Santa Fe investigators described the notebook as compact, with a soft leather exterior, visibly worn from years of use. The handwriting inside was verified by the family as belonging to Gene Hackman. The final entry in the journal, dated February 16th, just one day before his pacemaker recorded its first abnormal activity, was partially disclosed in the investigation report. "If this is the final stretch, I have no regrets. I only regret that Betsy will have to go alone." This poignant note quickly became a focal point on film forums and social media, resonating as a brief yet powerful goodbye, reminiscent of the iconic lines from Gene Hackman's films. Gene Hackman's family confirmed that the notebook was indeed his personal belonging, with all its contents handwritten by Hackman himself. While not a formal will, it was described as an emotional note. In a brief interview with the Santa Fe New Mexican, a close friend of Hackman revealed that the actor had long harbored concerns about his health. Following a routine medical checkup, doctors recommended that Hackman replace his pacemaker, which had been in use for 15 years, well beyond its typical lifespan. However, Hackman declined, fearing that undergoing surgery might negatively impact his overall well-being. Reports from newspapers quoted a close associate who shared Hackman's sentiments with friends. "If that day comes, I want it to come quietly. No hospitals, no ventilators, no witnesses." This statement, combined with the contents of the notebook, fueled widespread speculation after his death that Hackman had a strong sense of his impending fate. According to GPS data released by the Santa Fe sheriff, on the afternoon of February 16th, shortly after penning the final entry in the notebook, Hackman drove out. The car traveled along a mountain road roughly 8 miles from his residence, a route Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, often drove in the mornings to watch the sunrise and capture memorable photographs. Records from the Santa Fe New Mexican revealed that Hackman had once joked with Betsy on this road during their wedding anniversary, "If I can't drive back home myself, just leave me here." It's more beautiful than any cemetery I've ever seen. The car remained stationary for approximately 18 minutes. According to the investigation report, this was the confirmed time frame, though no cameras captured what Hackman did during those moments. Some investigative journalists speculated that he likely sat inside, jotting down the final notes in his notebook before heading back home. That old vehicle was more than just a mode of transportation. It was a crypt for the bloodiest secrets Gene Hackman had ever guarded. Now, those lurking in the shadows are anxiously counting down the hours until those secrets come to light. The aging car rested silently in the garage, cloaked in layers of dust and untold stories. It wasn't merely a car, but a steadfast keeper of memories and truths that Hackman had meticulously hidden throughout his lifetime. Inside the trunk lay more than just personal effects. It housed evidence, documents, recordings, photographs that unveiled the darkest underbelly of Hollywood. Secrets so explosive that their revelation could bring an entire empire to its knees. Gene Hackman, with his piercing eyes and enigmatic demeanor, was far more than a gifted actor. He was a sharp observer and a masterful gatherer of information. He had seen too much, learned too much, and now those secrets lay dormant within the old car, waiting for their moment to emerge. Those in the shadows, the ones who had manipulated, deceived, and even destroyed lives, were now gripped with fear. They understood that the car was no mere object. It was a silent time bomb, ready to detonate and expose their misdeeds. Their only hope was that these damning revelations would remain buried forever. However, the truth cannot remain concealed indefinitely. It will inevitably emerge, regardless of the obstacles and trials it encounters. The old car, stained with its grim secrets, would transform into a symbol, a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that no one can evade the reach of justice. Once uncovered, these secrets would not only send shockwaves through Hollywood, but also alter how we view those we once held in high regard. The car carried more than just hidden truths. It bore the weight of a reckoning, a final chapter, played out in Hackman's own distinctive manner. That's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. We truly appreciate your time and support. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, All Profos, so you never miss an update. Your engagement means the world to us, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.